We welcome Senator Brown for his first Sunday morning interview since being sworn in as a United States Senator. And welcome, Senator. I want to say every day, including yesterday, seems to bring news of some new outrage on Wall Street, but your Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, came out flatly against the financial reforms that the Democrats are going to bring to the Senate floor next week, or this week maybe. It sounded like the Republican response to health care reform, just we're against it. President Obama pushed back about as hard as we've heard him lately. He accused McConnell of taking that stance after a meeting with big Wall Street bankers. Listen to this.
Lo and behold, when he returned to Washington, the Senate Republican leader came out against common sense reforms that we've proposed. In doing so, he made the cynical and deceptive assertion that reform would somehow enable future bailouts, when he knows that it would do exactly the opposite.
Now, you have already said you're against this reform. You're with Senator McConnell. But what about that statement by the president?
Well, I think the president's political arm is now taking over this debate, and it's unfortunate because I, like many others in my state and throughout the country, want banks to be banks. They don't want them to be casinos. They don't want them to take risky bets on our money. And I think that this is an issue that we can clearly come to common ground and just solve the problem. Where there are problems, we should fix them. But the regulation, or the bill that's being proposed by the banking chairman, dramatically affects businesses. For example, Liberty Mutual, Mass Mutual. These folks are caught in that regulation as well. It's going to cost potentially 25,000 to 35,000 jobs. And
well, now wait a minute, Senator. How can you say that?
Well, I can say it very clearly because the regulations that they're trying to reel in with some of the risky hedging that bets are doing also affects companies like I just described in Massachusetts. It's very clear. And speaking with Secretary Geithner the other day, I certainly noted the president's comments, but Secretary Geithner has some of the same criticisms of the bill in that it doesn't end the bailout mentality of the big bank, the too big to fail concept. And in addition, there are a lot of things in the Dodd bill that are just bad for business, small businesses in particular, and we should do better. And I called the president out the other day in the administration to do better and stop politicizing these issues and just start solving problems.
But don't you think that Senator McConnell might be a little bit guilty of politicizing when he comes out and just says flatly, no, we're against it?
He's not saying no to financial reform, unless I'm mistaken, because that's never the impression I've gotten in the 73 days since I've been there. Throughout our caucuses, that issue has been in the forefront with the teams that are negotiating with the banking chairman to try to find common sense reforms and address situations like the one that I just pointed out, where companies are caught in the big web. And when you have government interfering in businesses, small businesses' lives, and just throwing like a one-size-fits-all approach just to score political points, it's sad. We should be looking at real issues, real solutions to these problems. And to politicize it, it's clear what they're doing with trying to score points, and he should do better.
Well, I have to say, though, when you look at what's coming out of Wall Street, I mean, every day tells us,
Bob,
the headlines tell us
there's
some outrage. I mean, just yesterday, the SEC claims that Goldman Sachs, which has been sort of the gold standard for Wall Street, that they defrauded customers that bought risky investments tied to some subprime mortgages. Even worse, risky investments packages that had been put together by hedge fund managers who were planning to bet against them and reap huge profits. And that's got to tell you something has got to be done
Absolutely.
here.
And I said we want banks to be banks. We don't want them to be casinos. And I'm glad the SEC is doing their job. And they should bring those charges because it's wrong and we should do something about it. But that's not what the bill does. The bill actually captures a lot of other things that really, and other institutions that had played no role in what we're talking about. So if we're going to do some realistic reforms, let's do it. And let's stop playing games and let's stop politicizing it and let's get back down to business.
All right. Are you prepared to work with the administration? You have said you're against this bill. But are you prepared to support some kind of reforms if, in fact, you have to go against the majority of your party?
Well, I've done that before. I look at each bill in an independent manner and vote accordingly. I did it in the first jobs bill. I look at each and every proposal and read it and make sure I understand it, make sure it's good for Massachusetts and ultimately good for the country. But we absolutely need to fix certain areas in financial reform. And I've said very very publicly that we should do that. But issue shouldn't be politicized. This should be something that we all come together and just say, let's just get it done, folks. And when the president politicizes this and just to try to score points and spot people, it's wrong. And I'm ready to move and work as I always have been on each and every issue.
So what should be done here? What's the next step?
Well, the next step is to bring people, put them in a room and start solving problems. And as evidenced by what I've tried to do, which is to vote with the Democrats and be the 60th vote or be the 41st vote. Washington's broken, people are hurting, and they want us to do better, and we should do better.
Would you be prepared to filibuster this bill rather than let it come to the floor for debate?
The present bill is not a good bill. Period. I've reviewed it. We've analyzed it. There are so many things that are going to.
So the answer is yes.
In this particular instance, yes.
But you're also ready to work on something else.
I made that very clear to the chairman the other day.
Senator, you came to town to change things. You came to the Senate a couple of months. You've been there a while now. What do you think of the place?
Well, certainly I'm honored to represent the people of Massachusetts, and it's been a humbling experience. And it'll be, gosh, three months tomorrow that I was elected. 73 days I've been in, and I've tried to certainly miss my wife and my kids and the dogs. But there are certain things that we're very proud of, and that's getting an office up and running, getting our constituent services up and running, and bigger buildings, bigger numbers, same issues, and I'm just looking forward to start to get Washington.
Well, you certainly
weren't
very complimentary to Washington and how it was working before you got here. Have you changed your mind about anything? Anything surprised you? Anything that pleased you, or displeased you?
Well, I've enjoyed meeting everybody. I'm honored to be here with you. I never thought I'd be here, certainly on this show. But Washington is broken. The perception is correct. There's too much partisan politics involved, and as I've said before, I'll be the 41st vote when it's appropriate and when it deals with issues affecting my state and this country, and I'll be the 60th vote because we need to get things moving. People are hurting, they're angry, and they want us to solve problems, and we need to get our fiscal house in order. We need to deal with the taxes and spending issues, and we need to focus on terrorism and how we're going to keep our people safe and secure.
You got elected, and the Tea Party took a lot of credit for your election, but you passed up the chance to appear at their rally in Boston with Sarah Palin. You had a good excuse. The Senate was in session. But I noticed you didn't show up at any of the rallies around Washington here. What is your relationship to the Tea Party? Do you consider yourself a Tea Partier, as it were?
Well, I consider somebody who's a member of a Tea Party being a citizen, a concerned citizen who's concerned about the economic stability of our country. That's, in my definition, that's what a Tea Party member is. And those people are Democrats, Republicans, Independents, young, old, happy, sad, rich, poor. They're very concerned about where our country is going financially. I am very thankful for the Tea Party support I received, and I'm also thankful for the 1.1 million votes I received and all the support from every walk of life and every branch. And I'm a Republican, Bob, as you remember, from Massachusetts, 13% enrollment. And if I didn't have the support of all different types of groups, I never would have been elected. So I respect what they're doing. You're right, I was voting. We're dealing with nuclear proliferation in Iran. The next day when the Washington rally, I was the subcommittee chair on dealing with the Afghan police forces and the $6 billion we've spent on trying to uplift that program. And where's the money? Why isn't the program working? And in addition to that, I had votes. And I was sent here by the Tea Party members and everybody else to do my job.
Well, would you have, for example, gone to the rally in Boston and appeared with Sarah Palin had the Senate not been in session?
Well, I've been to rallies before. I spoke a couple of years, last year at 2 rallies in Worcester before I was elected. And, my role now as an elected official is to do my job. And those weren't the circumstances. And I have great respect for Sarah and what she's doing. She's got a lot on her plate, and she plays a role in that movement and just the Republican Party.
Do you agree with our poll last week of the CBS News poll showed that most people, a large group of people in the Tea Party, think the president is pushing the country towards socialism. Do you believe that?
Well, I know that the president should start to focus on jobs and job creation, and that hasn't been done. Since I've been here, we've done health care, which they obviously rammed through by using a parliamentary procedure that has never been used for something this big ever. And then the bill, as we're finding out, is flawed, seriously flawed. That's going to cost medical device companies in my state, thousands of jobs. But then we're talking now about regulation reform. We're politicizing that. Maybe I've heard illegal immigration is going to come forth. When we were in Pakistan and Afghanistan, the only thing they talked about, from the presidents all the way down to the poorest farmer, were jobs. Since I've been here, I've heard zero talk about jobs. So I'll leave that up to the political pundits, but I know from what I've seen that we need to focus on jobs, and the president should start to do so.
But do you decline to answer my question? Is he pushing the country towards socialism?
I don't think he's making proper choices when it comes to dealing with the free market and free enterprise and allowing businesses to really run themselves and create jobs. And as a result, larger government is happening, and we're creating jobs, but they're all government jobs. And the private sector is definitely
Do you think
suffering.
the president shares American values?
I think the president's a good man. He has a good family. He has 2 wonderful daughters, and I recognize that challenge, what that can hold. And I respect the office of president. And I've always said that he is an American. I know he cares deeply about our country, but there's just different priorities. And my priority is to deal with the taxes and spending issues, to get our economy moving again, and to also keep us safe. So when we transport ourselves throughout the country and the world, we know that our loved ones are going to be coming home.
Let's talk about Afghanistan. You chose as your first overseas trip as a senator to go to Afghanistan. You met with the troops, but you also talked to the leader over there, Mr. Karzai,
Sure.
who's been saying some, frankly, pretty weird things, like at one point saying he might join the Taliban, at another point seeming to suggest that all the corruption that's going on over there is somehow the fault of foreigners, i.e. us.
Yeah.
How did you find this man?
Well, I sat right here, very similar. I asked him those tough questions. What about his comments about the Taliban? What about is he a true ally? Are we friends? Are we enemies? What's the relationship? And don't forget, his father got killed by the Taliban. He hates the Taliban. There's no way that he's going to...
Why would he say that?
I think he's under a lot of stress. He's daily assassination attempts, obviously dealing with 40-plus coalition partners, dealing with the corruption and other political issues that his country faces, the challenges that are there. And after our meeting, I was convinced that he was sincere. He recognizes and appreciates the sacrifice and support our men and women have given his country, the financial assistance that we provided. And I left Afghanistan hopeful that General McChrystal's plan and working hand in hand with the coalition forces, the tribal leaders and the individuals in Afghanistan, that's the best chance we have of success.
Let me add finally, your daughter, how does she say her name? Ayla?
Ayla.
Ayla Brown,
yes.
Has joined CBS News as a correspondent on the early show. So how do you feel about that?
Well, she's a broadcast journalism major, and she's been dealing with TV ever since her time on Idol. And I've watched her segments. They're very professional, and she works very, very hard. She's always, even Simon said she was the hardest worker on the show. So she's going to have to stand on her own 2 feet, and I'm very excited for that opportunity, and I hope she takes advantage of it.